7-2, the top light. If you get a version 2.6 board, and I'm going to be pushing them until I run out of stock, which shouldn't be more than about 10 more kits. It will need a 20 ohm resistor soldered to the LED in series with the LED. If you have a 2.7 version board, then you do not need the resistor. You just need to solder the wires on appropriately. In this case, I'm going to be doing the one for the resistor since that takes a little bit longer and is a little more work. Also, get the parts together. You have the 20 ohm resistor. You pick out which color LED you want for the top light. In this case, I pulled out a white. My preference is blue because it's like that for some of the series, and it's white for some of the others. So I included them both to satisfy everybody. You also want the set of wires, a short set of wires that came in the kit that do not have pins on either end. So they're bare on either end, no pins. And a piece of heat shrink. So let's get down to this. First, we're going to prep the resistor. Well, yeah, it says, okay, strip a 1/4 inch, twist, flux, and tin the end of one wire each. So I'll try to remember to do this in the step that's in the guide. So I'm just taking both the wires. There's already some exposed on there, but I like a little more wire, bare lead, so I'm going to cut those tips off and do it fresh. I'm going to cut. If you have an automatic stripper, it's kind of easy to do both at the same time. Excuse my arm. Got to get my flux out. Okay, strip, twist. Flux. And now we're going to tin. Once you turn up your iron and let it heat up. This finner, see these pen irons, they go pretty darn fast. As you can see, it's already up to temp, but up to a lower temp because I'd use that to shrink the heat shrink from the last job. So now I just bumped it up to 230, or correction, 330. Get some solder on the tip. And there we go. That's one that's tinned. And let's do the green wire. Again, the color of the wire might be green and yellow. It might be blue and white. It might be black and red, or somewhere in between. I just like to make sure there's contrast so you can establish which is which. In the guide, it says it comes with a 6-inch wire pair. It may be as short as 5 inches for these bears. It'll still work fine. This comes in just shy of 5 now that I've trimmed a little bit off of it. Well, we'll find out later if that works or not, won't we? And now that we're going to cut the leads of the resistor in half because we don't need all that length taking up space in there. So we're going to cut them in half. And the resistors can go in either direction, so it doesn't matter which is which. And now we're going to cut the LED legs. Again, we don't want it, nice to have it a little shorter. We're going to cut the shorter one first. I'm just going to cut the shorter one in half while I'm making sure that the lead doesn't fly away. And then I'm going to cut the other leg a little bit longer so I can identify which is positive. You need to be able to identify the positive or you're going to get this backwards at least half the time. The odds are not with you. So there, after we've cut down the LED leads, you can see one is still identified as longer, and that's the positive side. The next step is to solder the leg of the resistor to the longer leg of the LED. It can go to either, technically, but we like to stick with the common, the established, whatever, common practice, standard practices. I'm just going to dip both legs of the LED in there and stick it in my grabber, my holder, my handy helping hands. And now I'm going to also dip a little bit of the resistor leg in there. I always use the flux on these just to make sure I get a good connection. And oh, look at that. Okay, well, first complication, it's not going to work in my helping hands that I have here. So instead, I'm just going to hold the darn thing and give it a go. Get that out of the way, and here we have one. Okay. So I'm going to clean the tip. I'm going to get some solder on the tip. And now I'm just going to carefully try to hold this in place, see if this works. No, that's no go. I'm going to try this again. Shoot this video over. Cut this out. I had a little bit of a time with that other holder helping hands. So I switched to the standard ones that you've probably got here. I've already mounted the LED and the resistor, and I've got the resistor leg right up against the longer leg of the LED, and we're going to give this a go. I'm going to be putting the heat shrink on the other leg because that'll be easier, and I don't need to slip it over a resistor or remember to put one on right now. So, LED underneath, or iron underneath, and just a little bit of wire, and that looks like a great connection. And now I'm going to solder, as long as I got the LED in there, I'm going to try soldering the dark wire that I've already prepped one end of it. I didn't mention to press the other end because you don't need to do that yet. You want to prep the other end when you're ready to work the other end, and we're not ready for that step. So there's a little bit of a snug fit there, but there we go. Get a little bit of solder on the iron underneath, wire on top. Maybe a little more. I can't quite tell if that's, there we go. A little bit of blob, solder blob. I'm gonna check this from another angle and see how it looks. Yep, that looks like a good job. So the last step is I'm going to remove this contraption, and I'm going to slide the heat shrink on to the negative leg where it can go right up to the LED and cover up that. There we go. So we don't have any bare wire exposed now, or bare metal exposed, so that if those leads of the LED get squished together a little bit, it won't risk shorting out the LED or the wiring. And I turned the iron down to, I turned mine, I have the preset for 230, so I just use that. And shrinking the heat shrink with the side of it. And you want to be careful, one, not to damage the resistor with the iron tip if you're doing it this way, and two, not to damage the LED itself. If I accidentally tap it against the LED, that's okay, but you don't want to damage it. And now that heat shrink is in place, and we've got the LED on there, and we've only got one more step to do, which is to solder the positive light colored lead to the other leg of that LED. Now I've got the resistor mounted and held with the helping hand as well as the light wire, and now this last step of this section is to solder these two guys together. Maybe I'll pull out my tweezers to help me push that wire, maintain that wire in place. Yeah, I don't think I need it. Yeah, I think that's all fine. I think I'm just fussing for nothing. Let's pick this up and see how it looks. Yep, that looks fine. Now we're going to prep the end of the leads from the other end from the LED, the bare leads. Instructions say about 4 inches from the top of the LED. So I'll take out my handy. It's okay to have a little bit more, and as you can see, even though I started with less than 6 inches, it started around 5 inches. I've still got plenty left now the LED is on there. And I'm just going to go 4.5 inches. Why not? And I'm going to for this one, we want to strip, it says 1/4 inch. I'm going to go, a little less than 1/4 inch. Because I know what this, because we got, this end is going to be getting soldered to the pogo pins, to the leads of those pogo pins. And you don't need a whole bunch. So you twist. But you do want a little more than an eighth to 1/4, and you're fine. Flux. 10. You definitely always want to tin your wires, especially for this project. And there we go. Now these are prepped for the next step, which is going to be soldering the connections to the pogo connector that goes in the lid.